Following the death of Septimius Angelos, the Yasudo left no clear successor. So, for the next 176 years, the Yasudo would be in chaos. The chaos is divided into two distinct periods. The Ishibili, meaning 3rd century Agita, where the Yasudo was in peril but still functional, and the Ukuwa Okula, meaning 80-year anarchy, where the Yasudo was in a constant state of peril and fracture. In the previous video, I divided the sections by dynasty. That, however, is not possible in this video, so we will instead divide by the above periods. Let's begin. First, we have the usurpers, occasionally incorrectly referred to as the Nameless Dynasties. This period lasted 97 years and saw a maximum of 6 emperors, but possibly only 5. We will get to that later. The first emperor of this period was Phocas, known as the Nomad Herder. He was the top general of Septimius and used the military to make himself emperor. He, being a military man who had spent over a decade immersed in nomadic culture, made a peace treaty with the nomads Septimius had been fighting against. He also set up the nomadic guard within this treaty, using the steppe nomads as a personal guard for the emperor. This guard would fluctuate between reliability and treachery during their 300 years of existence. Treachery was how it would end with Phocas, as his guard did nothing to prevent his assassination by Brando. Phocas's reign was 15 years. His nephew, Brando, was the one to kill and succeed Phocas. Known as the Kinslayer, Brando ruled for 30 years very well, and he was agreed to have almost brought in a return to the Golden Age, but he made a grave mistake of lowering the pay of his nomadic guards in an attempt to lessen government expenses. They would kill him for this action and place a friend of the guard named Macarius as emperor. Brando's reign lasted 30 years. Macarius is known as the Nomad Puppet due to his many concessions to the guard. He increased their pay to the highest it would ever reach. He was a competent statesman, but not a great one. He died of natural causes after 19 years of rule. His childhood friend, Nucreus, would succeed him. Nucreus was known as the Epoch, as it was in him that the horrible machinations of the nomadic guard would reach their peak. He was allegedly fully fledged nomad by birth, and due to this foreign nature was unpopular with the people. It is, however, possible that he was actually Yasudo-born, and that the foreigner angle was propaganda meant to harm his image. Either way, the people would not have to live long under his rule. After a single year of rule, Nucreus died of what is assumed to be natural causes, possibly heart failure. During the first half of Nucreus' rule, a man named Podes was said to have proclaimed himself emperor of a minor province. He is quite possibly a fictional man, as he is mentioned in but one unreliable source. If he was real, it should be known that he is remembered as Podes the Endowed, that he died after 3 days of quote-unquote intense physical labor. If he indeed reigned, it would have only lasted 6 months. Succeeding Nucreus would be Julius. He was called Julius Uka, meaning Julius the Stitcher. He single-handedly kept an increasingly isolated Yasudo from fracturing. He had no family due to his intense dedication to his job and would die alone in his sleep. He reigned for 32 years, and after him would be 80 years of imperial anarchy. This 80-year anarchy, or Ukuwa Okule, would actually last 79 years. It saw 5 lawful emperors and 3 imperial usurpers. The first ruler and successor of Julius was Procolius. Due to his succession, he was known as the rightful emperor. During his rule, the Yasudo split into 4 parts, and he controlled the smallest but most stable portion, largely based in what is now Rithlandia. His reign and the splits in it is remembered as the lowest part of the Yasudo. He died of a brain hemorrhage after 30 years of rule and civil war. Before I go to his successor, let's speak of the 3 usurpers. The first usurper was Matthias, and he ruled over what is now remembered as the Great Splinter. His territory was much of modern-day Kraliev, and he gained the respect of the tribes of the pagan lands who offered their knowledge to his rule. They did not, however, provide military support, and he would die in battle against the Emperor Flavius. The length of his reign is unknown. The second usurper was Smithic. He is reported to have said that he gained power because, quote-unquote, the world cracked. He unified the oft-divided Jade Isles and held obsession with what he referred to as, quote-unquote, the magical grass of the gods, which gave him spiritual visions. He too would die in battle against Flavius, and his rule's length is also unknown. The final and greatest usurper was Damon. He was remembered as Daemon the Large, as he held the most territory out of any usurper. He owned all of what is now Bjorn's Skull, including Ishibili, and planned on expanding into Earthlandia. However, he would die. His death is mysterious. He either died in glorious battle, sword to sword against Flavius himself, or somebody stabbed him up the bum as he defecated. His reign was 45 years long. Now let's return to the rightful emperors. After the death of Procopius, a man named Tiberius would succeed to the rightful Yasudo. He had no personal historian during his reign, and all records of his rule have been lost. All that we have to remember him by are events depicted on coins which circulated during his rule. He possibly strengthened the military, but that may just be hearsay to explain the success of his successor. It is because of his unknown life that he is remembered as Tiberius the Forgotten. His reign was 15 years. Flavius was the man to succeed Tiberius. He was given the title of Umili Wosowade, meaning Eternal Restorer of the Yasudo. He would, with the strength of his hard-trained military, reunite all of the Yasudo. He began with the large territory of Daemon, then moved on to defeat Matthias, then finally Smithic. However, in his third year of glorious rule, the treacherous Senator Gallio would assassinate him and assume the reins of power. Gallio, for his murder of Flavius, is posthumously remembered as the World Slayer. He rose to power in his late life at the age of 74. His reign is remembered fondly in the historical writings, but it's commonly accepted that this is the case because his imperial policy was one of intimidation. He died at 96 after 22 years of rule. The final emperor of the 80 Years of Anarchy was a man named Amulius. His reign was controversial, as he was handpicked by the hated Gallio. Fortunately, he managed to rule with tact. Personally, he had one great hobby: hunting. It is possible that this hobby would kill him, however, as it is rumored that he met his end by being dragged around the forest for miles by a bear he had attempted to kill. Alternatively, he could have died naturally. Either way, his reign was 9 years. His successor, Carcodes Thrax, will be covered in the next video. Of note before that video, however, Carcodes was actually the stable boy of Amulius at the beginning of his career, and it's rumored that his rise to power was the result of an affair with Amulius. So, the Agita and the anarchy of the Yasudo is over. The next video will cover the Imin Yakuko, meaning Reform period, then the Amak Nzekolo, meaning the Age of the Religious Warriors. That is all for this video. Goodbye.